You wouldn't think a man that was convicted of killing his wife would ever be invited to attend a major political ceremony in a legislative chamber, even if he is a former prominent politician. Colin Thatcher was the son of a former Saskatchewan premier, and for my American people out there, premier's like a governor. Colin Thatcher himself was a cabinet member in Saskatchewan, and he was pretty well known, and his colleagues all knew him as being kind of a brash, almost intimidating type of character. He was also a successful rancher outside of politics. At the start of the 80s, Colin and his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, he'd been with her for I think about 16 years, they were going through a very public and fiery divorce/custody battle. Eventually, his wife got custody of the youngest of their 3 children, and before Colin knew it, he was forking up today's equivalent of millions of dollars in settlements, alimony. JoAnne, she moved on pretty quick. She got herself a new husband, and they lived in this very prestigious area, but only 5 months into their marriage, something shocking would go down in the ritzy neighborhood of Lakeview, Regina. JoAnne had just been in her kitchen when all of a sudden a shot rang out. An unknown shooter had been stalking her from just outside of her window, discharging a high-powered rifle round right into her shoulder. She ended up surviving the attack. Witnesses saw a orangey, reddish Mustang type of car and a bearded man in his 20s flee the scene. From her hospital bed, JoAnne pointed the finger at one man and one man only, her ex-husband, and that is telling as hell right there if she's just unequivocally like, yeah, I didn't even see the person, but it's gotta be my ex-husband. Problem was, Colin didn't match the description that the witnesses gave, this guy that was half his age with a beard and the red car, all that, so they dropped the angle of Colin being the shooter. Thatcher continued to advance in his political career, eventually ascending to the position of Minister of Energy, but he stepped down from that position after only like a year, citing personal and financial reasons. Just 4 days after this resignation, JoAnne was found beaten and fatally shot in the garage of her home, and this attack was brutal. She had been struck, I believe, as many as 40 times with what they thought was a sickle type of a weapon. She had lost a finger during the attack, a broken arm, like a bunch of fractures, and then there was a fatal shot at the end of the attack. A similar bearded man that was seen during the 1981 shooting was seen staking out the house inside a blue sedan for every day for the past 3 days before this attack. A suspicious woman had actually walked up to the car, and there was dirt all over the license plate, and she tried to wipe it, exposing the last 3 letters of the license plate 292, and then the car drove off. Just outside the home in the snow, police pick up this credit card receipt for gas, and guess whose signature was on that receipt? Colin Thatcher. And on top of that, days later, Colin returned a government-owned blue rented car with a license plate ending in 292. But even with that, he still didn't resemble the description of the suspect, and when they talked to his 2 sons and his housekeeper who was home at the time of the attack, they verified his alibi, said he was at home eating dinner at his ranch in Moose Jaw. But authorities, they kept their attention on Colin. They knew that something just didn't add up, and luckily, one day they receive a call from an anonymous source pointing them in the direction of this collection agent that lived on a ranch just a short drive away from Colin. And when they checked the phone records, they were chatting a lot. And on top of that, this man named Gary Anderson, he also resembled the composite sketch. So they bring Gary in, and boy, does he have a story to tell. He tells them that Colin hired him to go find somebody to perform the hit, but when the money was exchanged, they didn't carry out the hit. They were con men. So that's when Colin said, well, I'll just do it myself, and he got himself a wig and a fake beard and drove over to the house, did it himself. But this man's story alone couldn't be enough. They needed something a little more concrete, so they devised a secret operation. With the promise of immunity, Gary was to meet his buddy Colin out near their ranches in the Moose Jaw countryside wearing a wire. The covert mission was called Operation Wire. Out of all the covert mission names I've ever heard, that has to be the least effort I've ever seen put into one. Anyway, here's the results.
Let's get in this car and go for a ride.
I'd prefer to stay around. I only want to be a couple minutes.
You can hassle?
Well, he came once and talked to me. Just asked me about the Chev car, and that was about it. How about you?
Talked to him once the day after, and no question, there's been some attempts to put us together, and we should not be seen together.
I got rid of the stuff out of the car. You kind of give me a scare there with, I found the stuff laying in there, and then I didn't know what the hell you had done with the gun.
Don't even talk like that. Don't even walk out this way a little bit. I always have a great fear of those parabolic mics of theirs. But I still don't trust the bastards for bugs. Just assume the bastards are listening.
I had a hell of a time to clean the car out.
All right.
Yeah, I had a bit of time getting blood and stuff off.
No chance it can ever surface.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
The car was cleaned.
There's no problems, and there won't be unless they trip over something, and I got no intention of giving them anything to trip on. There are no loose ends. There's only two places to put the connection together, and they got zero else. You know, denied.
And that was enough. They made the arrest. Some more stuff came out. A gun shop owner was able to prove that Colin purchased the weapon, the gun. He gets locked up, but in 2006, after serving 22 years behind bars, he's granted parole and is a free man to this day. Which brings us to just a few months ago. There was a throne speech going on in Saskatchewan, and all the politicians attending, they were allowed to invite one guest. And one of these guys decides, oh, my old convicted murderer buddy. Yeah, that'd be a good VIP for this event. He invites Thatcher. Thatcher attends the ceremony, and guess what the ceremony was on? What they were discussing. They were discussing gun violence, and I guess Colin is kind of an expert in that.